Hi guys, welcome everyone. My name is Vera. Today I'm going to show you how to paint our wonderful windy beach painting right here. Now before we start, let's go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we're going to need for today. The first thing you're going to need is canvas. When I was making this painting, I used 9 by 12 inch canvas. So I'm going to stick with exact same size for the painting I'm going to be painting right now. You guys are welcome to go with a bigger or smaller canvas. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you adjust the size of your brushes based on the size of your canvas. So if you go with bigger canvas, you might want to go with slightly bigger brushes. When we go with smaller canvas, you might want to go with slightly smaller brushes. Next thing you're going to need is water. Make sure you have that. You're also going to need a paper towel. Here is what I have here. And we're going to need a plate or palette with our paint. I'm going to be using a student grade acrylic paint, primary colors only, which is white, black, red, blue, and yellow. And we're going to be mixing them into all the shades that you can see here. Now, if you guys prefer to use pre-mixed colors and mixing is generally not your thing, you're welcome to do that. From pre-mixed colors, you're going to need teal or aqua. You're going to need a green, one or two shades, but generally just one green is fine. Something darker is perfect. And brown. That's what you're going to need if you're using pre-mixed colors instead of primaries. But if you have primaries, that's more than enough. I'm going to show you how to mix all of them into all the colors that we're going to need for today. And of course, we're going to need a couple different brushes. You are welcome to use any brushes of your choice. The only thing I would say, try to have a variety. Try to have something bigger for larger areas such as, let's say, sky. And you want to have a small detailed brush. That's important for small details because we do have quite a few fine details on this painting. So these two brushes are important, something bigger and something small. And it's good to have something medium for the rest, such as these areas, clouds, grass, and so on. So I'm going to be using 3 brushes, medium large, medium small, and small pointy detailed brush. For those who are into numbers and who are wondering what numbers I have, this is number 11, this is number 5, and this is number 0 pointy brush. So that's what I'm going to be using. As you can see, my 2 brushes are square, my medium large and my medium small are square, but they don't have to be. This is just a personal preference. It's the brushes I have and I love. You're welcome to use pointy, rounded, any kind of brush. It doesn't have to be specifically square. So that's pretty much it, guys. And of course, if you're going to go with a bigger canvas, you might want to get bigger sizes. So for example, for the biggest one, you might want to go not with a medium large, just large. Medium small, instead of medium small for the medium one, you want to go maybe with medium or medium large. But you still will have to use a small pointy number 0, number 1, or number 2 for the details regardless of the size of your canvas. So this brush doesn't change. It doesn't change. Alrighty, so let's discuss how we are going to do this. First thing I'm going to start with is a sky. I'm going to work on my sky and I'm going to use a couple different colors here. I'm going to use a multiple shades of blue. I'm going to use white and I'm going to add a tiny smidge of black into my blue at some point to make this stormy blue color. Just a little bit of that from the sides. Then once I have my sky, I'm going to move on to my water and I'm going to create that deep, beautiful water. And I'm going to do dark aqua, then white, a little bit in between color to blend them. And then I'm going to move to my sand and I'm going to make brown. And then using that brown, I'm going to make lighter shades such as sand color, some, coffee and cream colors, and some darker brown colors. And I'm going to create this sand and those little hills of sand there. Then after that, I'm going to go second layer on everything, and then I'm going to finish up with the grass and the birds. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's what we're going to do here. Remember, this is a video recording, so if at any point you need to take a little bit more time on any step, feel free to pause it as many times as needed for as long as needed, and then whenever you're ready, you can resume the video and you can join me again. Alright, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to switch this, and you guys can refer to the image that you can see on the side of the screen here, but I will be showing you this painting every now and then as well. But I will be moving it out for now, just so it's not in my way. And I'm going to grab the biggest brush that I have, which in my case is medium large. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make light blue. It doesn't have to be super light, it has to be like a medium light. So we're gonna start by scooping some white on the side. Oh, dip your brush in the water first. And then we're gonna take a little bit of blue. We're gonna mix it up. Do you see? It's fairly light, but it's not like a baby blue light. It's closer to medium light. Great. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start from the top, and I'm gonna bring a couple of brush strokes of this color. Oh, sorry guys, my camera. Oh yeah, okay, better. So flicking it from the left, bringing it right here. Then I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, take some white, bring white right here, color in this little piece, and then merge it into this blue. Do you see? And blend it. Then I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it on paper towel, take a bit more white again, put it on the other side. You have to do this fast before this dries. Put it on the other side, and then merge it into my blue. Okay, so this is one. Now I'm gonna add another one from this side. So right here, I'm gonna start the next one. I'll bring it right here. And then I'm gonna add one more right away from here, on the side. Okay, should be good. Now I'm gonna wash my brush, dab it off on a paper towel. Again, I'm gonna take some white before this all dries, and I'm gonna add it beside it first. You see, on the glare where I'm adding my white. And now I'm gonna merge it. You see, I'm just smoothing, making it a little smoother. And you see I'm dabbing off my brush on a paper towel too. That's because my brush gets contaminated with this blue. It gets too heavy on paint. So I just want to get rid of that extra paint. That's why I'm dabbing it off. So I can go back and I can pick up a little bit of that extra paint and bring it down again. Then we're going to move to our left again. So I'm going to refill my brush with blue. And from here, I'm going to add a little tiny section here. All right, and then I'm gonna finish with one last one. So again, I'm gonna grab some blue, and from the bottom, from the left side, let's actually go a little bit higher here. Sorry, from the right side. So right here, I'm gonna bring one last one. Okay, now, again, I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel. I'm gonna take some white, and I'm gonna add it underneath, not on the edge, underneath, do you see? I'm adding it right under first. And then, only once I added it right under, I'm gonna merge it from the bottom up into this blue to smudge that edge. I'm gonna empty my brush on a paper towel, grab a little bit more white, and smudge this section too. There we go, that's a start. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make a slightly darker blue. And guys, ideally you wanna do this in one shot, so don't take any breaks just yet. We'll get time for break, but not yet. So now I'm gonna take a little bit more blue, and I'm gonna add it into the same color I just used to make it a little bit darker. And I'm gonna take only a little bit of this paint, so don't take a brush full, don't scoop it on. I'm actually trying to empty my brush from extra paint. And with this slightly darker paint, I'm gonna darken up certain sections. So from here, right in the middle of that blue spot, I'm gonna flick in just a little bit more paint. You see, to make it a little bit darker. Then I will do the same right here. You see, I'm almost dry brushing it on, so use just a little bit of paint. If you use too much paint, this is going to turn out like a big blob, and that's not what we want. So try to use just a little bit of paint. And you don't need to blend it with white this time, because we're using different technique. Before we used a bit more paint, so it needs to be blended. Now that we dry brush it on, it doesn't need to be blended. You just have to add it lightly. So basically, you just take a bit of paint, not a lot, and then you scrape the surface of your canvas. So basically, you don't push on your brush hard, you just lightly do this. And streakiness is actually good for this paint, so it's not a bad thing. Maybe I'll add even a little bit right here, just very lightly, do you see? Super, super lightly, like scraping the surface of your paint canvas. And you need to have a little bit of paint. You see, it doesn't leave blobs of paint. It leaves just like a little mark. So it's all about how much paint you use. In this case, only a little. Yeah, it's good. It added some streakiness, and I'll add some right here too. And I will be done with this color. All right. The next color that I want to add is going to be that stormy blue. So what are we going to do to the same color I just used? I'm going to add a tiny smidge of black. So when I say tiny, I mean this tops. And you see, it gave it a little stormy shade. It became a little grayer, but also a little darker, but still blue. So with this stormy color, we're going to add a little bit more. So I'm going to start right here. And again, dry brush it on using very little bit of paint. Then I'm going to add it right here. And here I'm not going to do one brush stroke, I'm going to do it with a couple smaller brush strokes. And then I'm going to add it right here. Again, with a couple smaller brush strokes. Do you see I'm not doing one long one? I'm doing like a combination of the smaller ones. Still using just a little bit of paint and dry brushing it on. Now for this step, it doesn't matter whether your background paint underneath it is dry or wet. It will work either way, as long as it's not super wet underneath. Dry is good, or somewhat dry is okay too. Somewhat wet is okay, as long as it's not super wet. Because if it's super wet, you're not going to be even able to, you know, paint on top, or you will just pick up the paint that's already there instead of leaving this paint on. So your paint basically is not going to stick if it's super wet. Okay. I'm going to smudge that a little. That turned out a little too harsh. So to smudge it, I'm going to wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel with a clean wet brush. I'm going to go here, and you see I'm just smudging it. So it turned out a little bit too harsh for my liking. All right, that's good. Let's add a little bit more there. All right, I'm happy with my sky. You guys can continue working until you're happy with it. And then whenever you are, you stop, and we're gonna have our little cloud. So I'm gonna wash this brush, and I'm gonna put it aside, oops. And I'm gonna use my smaller brush. So I'm gonna use my medium small brush for my clouds. And guys, it's better to do clouds when this is wet. When this is dry. So if this is still super wet for you, just give it a couple more minutes. You don't have to move to clouds right away. You can move to clouds whenever you're ready for them. In my case, I'm ready, so I will move to them. But yes, wait until it dries. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the cloud, the top part. So the top part of the cloud is very wavy, fluffy. The bottom part of the cloud, you don't really see it. So what are we going to do? We're going to add that top part, and we're going to smudge it down with our finger to make it so foggy and nice and light. You can do clouds in any shape. So I'm going to start somewhere around here. Okay, so I added that. I'm just going to smudge it with a brush a little bit first. And then I'm going to grab my finger and I'm just going to smudge that bottom edge and rub it into the canvas so you can see it. Ideally, I would like my clouds to be a little bit lighter, so I may need to do this a couple times because you don't get you don't get it super bright and white from the first layer. Sometimes you have to do a couple layers. I'm going to add a tiny one right here. Okay, that's great. And then I'm going to get one more down here. Great, then I'm going to let that dry. And in the meantime, as that's drying, I'm going to work on the upper side of my sky, and I'm going to go back to my larger brush. So wash this one off, put it on the side. I'm going to grab a big one, and I'm going to grab just a little bit of white. So not a lot. Don't grab a brush full. So don't grab just on the edge. Rub it into your brush so it's nicely spread over your brush, but just don't take a blob. And I'm going to bring some a little bit from this left side to lighten up the section a little bit here. Oh yeah, I like that. And then I'm going to bring it right in the middle here. I'm just going to lighten up a little section here. I already have a light section, but I want to have this a little bit of a bigger light section here. So again, we're dry brushing it on, so that only take a little bit of paint. Oh yeah, beautiful. Exactly what I wanted. And if you want to, you can add a bit of texture here. A cloud like little brush strokes. If you want to, you don't have to. You see how lightly, because we're dry brushing, right? So everything is super nice and light. Light touch. Great. And now I'm going to add those streaks of light coming out from there. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to grab just a little bit of paint, and I'm going to push a little harder where I start, and then I'm going to let go. And so basically, push a little harder. It's going to give you more visible line. As you let go, it's going to get lighter and lighter and lighter. So that's the goal. So basically, I'm going to start somewhere here. And you see I'm making some of them smaller, some of them bigger. If I use the full width of a brush, they become quite wide. But if I want smaller ones, I just use the corner of my brush instead of full width of my brush. And then get smaller. I'll smudge the top a little bit. All right. That looks quite wonderful. My clouds are still a little bit wet, so I can't add second layer to them, but I do want to add second layer to them. So I will add it as soon as they dry enough for me to add second layer. But as we wait, we're going to move to our water. And we're going to start by mixing our beautiful dark teal or aqua, whatever you want to call it, this bluey-green color. You can either use your medium large or medium small, something medium. Just don't use the smallest one. We're going to start by mixing some blue with some white. And this time you're going to use more blue than white. So start with a base of blue because we want to keep our color quite dark. And just a little tip for you, whenever you're mixing light color, you're always going to start with a white base. Whenever you're mixing dark color, you're going to start with a dark base. So if I'm trying to make light blue, I don't start with blue and add white. I start with white and add blue. If I'm trying to make dark color, such as dark green, dark blue, dark any color, I start with a base of dark color and just then little by little add add white. So now I have this medium dark blue, right? Now to this color, I'm going to start adding yellow little by little. If you add too much, it's going to turn it into green, and that's what we don't want. We want it to have a greener undertone, so like a hint of green to it, but we don't want it to be full on green. And it's really fast. You don't need equal parts of blue and yellow to make green. You need, let's say, 90% blue and 20% yellow, and that will already turn into green. So you have to start adding little by little, tiny smidge on the corner of your brush by tiny smidge. In my case, this color has more than enough yellow. It actually doesn't look like that on the camera because for some reason it just doesn't pick up all shades, but you can see on this image on my right side, this is exactly what my color looks like in real life right now. If you can see it here, I don't know why it doesn't pick up this shade fully, but it is, yeah, it's beautiful aqua. It's exactly like that. Maybe I'll add a bit more for the sake of getting it more on camera. Okay. And with this color, I'm going to go lower than the middle. So if this is the middle, I'm going to go somewhere right here underneath my clouds. And I'm going to start by putting one line. You can use quite a bit of paint here. You don't have to use just a little bit of paint. Don't dry brush it on because we actually need to mix it with white and blend it. So a lot of paint is a good thing here. And then I'm going to bring it down a little. And then once I add it, I would say in my case, for the size of my canvas, it's like about an inch. Now I'm going to wash off my brush. I'm going to dab it off on a paper towel, and I'm going to take some white. And I'm going to add white right under. Again, not on the edge, under. You see? And then I'm going to blend it up. Not all the way. You want to keep the very top super dark, so don't blend anything there. Keep the top the color it is. You just want to blend this middle part. So whenever your brush gets dirty, you can just dab it off on a paper towel and then continue blending this midsection until you feel like it's good. In my case, this is good. I don't want to blend it more. I like that it has a bit of streak and it's not like a super gradual transition. As long as it doesn't look like two separate colors and it has somewhat of a transition, that's good. You don't have to mix any further. That looks really great. Now that we have the base for our water, have our sky, we're going to move on to our sand, and we're going to mix our brown color and we're going to add the base for our sand. So what are we going to need here is, you can mix with any brush. It doesn't really matter which brush you want to mix with. I'm going to mix with the same brush. So what are we going to do? We're going to make mixture of red and yellow first, so like an orange, ready orange. And then to that color, we're going to add blue, just a tiny, tiny smidge. So let's do this. I'm going to start with getting some yellow and some red, mixing them up to make sure it looks like orangey-ish. And then to this color, I'm going to start adding blue, but little by little. We take a tiny smidge and mix it in. Great, I need more red. So now, you see it already looks brown, but it looks weird brown. It's not the color I was hoping to get. I was hoping to get a bit different color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit more red. So basically, rescuing for brown. I'm going to walk you through rescuing for brown. So if it has a greener undertone, for example, and it looks just like that unpleasant color, or maybe like olive color in a way, that's pleasant, but not for sand. So what you need to do, if it has a green undertone, means you just need to add more red. If it has a purple undertone, that means you don't have enough yellow. So just add a bit more yellow. If it looks too orange, that just means you don't have enough blue, and so on. So basically adjust it based on that. Continue adding a little bit of whichever color needs to be added, but your components are already yellow and blue. Just continue working on it until you feel like your color is exactly what you wanted it to be. For me, I think this is a good color. So now I'm not going to use that color straight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of it. Whatever I have on a brush is actually plenty. And then I'm going to wash off my brush because that would be too much if I don't. And I'm going to add white to it. And you see, now I have my sand color. In my case, now that I'm looking at it, I mix it and it looks a little bit too greeny. Has like a bit of a cold undertone to it, which I would prefer to have warmer undertone. This is fine actually. This is a good color, you can keep it. But I wanted a bit more warm undertone, so I'm going to take a little bit of red and add it in to neutralize the green. Oh yeah, I like this color more because it's a little bit warmer. Beautiful. Love this. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to color the entire bottom with it. And you see when I get closer to my water, I'm going to start doing it very lightly in a brush strokes like this. Tiny little brush strokes. So I don't want to do a full line, I want to brush strokes where it merges. Very lightly, just dry brush it on with a very little touch of paint on your brush. Awesome. So we have a base for our sand now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add a bit of brown now, and I'm going to work on those hills, and I'm going to position the base for them. So I'm going to take just a little bit. I'm not even washing my brush. I'm going to take just a little bit of brown, make sure it's not a lot. And I'm going to start right underneath here. So just a little bit. It's important that you only have a touch of paint on your brush. If you have too much, you can dab it off on a paper towel. And do it while it's wet. And just blend it in. You can even take a finger and smudge it if you feel like it's too much. All right, that looks really good. I love it. You can add more if you want to. Maybe I'll add a little bit more actually. Why not, right? Okay, now I'm going to add our heels. So I'm going to start with this guy right here. And then I'm going to add a smaller one right here. And then if you want to, you can add just a tiny, tiny smidge of brown here to darken up that area. Here, just a little bit, not a lot. Okay, now I'm going to go into the other side. I'm going to add a hail on this side too. And a second one right here. So again, start with visible amount, and then I'm going to just darken up a little bit the bottom here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white paint. Actually, I'm going to switch a brush too. For this, I'm going to wash that off. I'm going to take my medium small. I'm going to take a little bit of white paint, just a touch. Maybe I'll dab it off on a paper towel. I'm going to lighten up this section. Ideally, your base should still be wet. If it's not, that's okay too. It's not a big deal. You just need to use even less white, or maybe even water down your white so it's nice and light and transparent. All right, I think I'm happy with this amount. So guys, in my case, everything is wet. So my clouds are still wet, my water is wet, my sand is wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break and I'm going to let it all dry. And I suggest you guys do the same. And then whenever it's all dry, you can come back and you can join me again. And I will see you guys in the next segment of this video.